Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast listeners out there. We had a little bit different visitor or a little bit different office that I went to today. Dr. Vernon Ansdell is a medical doctor and studied in tropical medicine, and again from England, and again spent a lot of his time here as a doctor in Hawaii. Now, after retired, is using his leadership skills and his boss skills to advocate for something that he believes in. And so, again, I don't pick one side or another about a certain topic. Certainly, I love to hear certain folks' opinions, and I always appreciate someone who's standing up for what they believe in. And Dr. Vernon Ansdoll is an example of that. As the president of the Haiku Stairs, Friends of the Haiku Stairs, he's coming out and saying, you know, that there's an opportunity that the city may be overlooking and the city council may be overlooking. And so they are voicing their opinion about in opposition of the tearing down of those stairs. And so we had a chance to talk about those things, some of the pros and cons and some of the challenges of maintaining the stairs and the cost, et cetera. Anyway, again, if there's someone who's in agreement with him and in their group, there's several folks that are, and I'm sure that there are several against, trying to maintain the stairs. So it's a big headache, but sometimes it takes this kind of leadership to bring everybody together and remember and keep on track. Sometimes you have to listen to the folks that have been around when you have a new council in. Again, no opinion one time or another, but just as from a Hawaii Boss perspective, sometimes you need to make sure as you're in the active progress that you don't forget some of the very special things that make Hawaii, Hawaii. And Haiku Stairs may be one of those things, and it's something for us to really take a second look at. Anyway, take a good listen here to Dr. Vernon Ansdoll, and as president of Friends of Haiku Stairs. And I hope you can learn a little bit something more like I did about the Haiku Stairs, its history, and the wonderful thing that it is as part of Hawaii, an attraction for Hawaii. Okay, Hawaii Boss podcast crew, until next time, let's listen in good. Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew out there. This is David Pettijohn, your host. We're excited to have with us today Dr. Vernon Ansdell as the president of the Friends of Haiku Stairs. He's got a long history here. We're excited to get to know him. We're in his office. He's got a long history also as a physician, but we want to know about his role specifically in the Friends of Haiku Stairs today. And we welcome Dr. Vernon Ansdell.
Thank you.
Sir, in the Hawaii Boss, our podcast, we want to know a little bit about people and what makes them tick. So then we help us to understand kind of in your current role and things, what sort of led you to this type of thing. So for you, what was when you first learned about work, your first engagement with work and development, education, did you always know when you were growing up that you were going to be a physician?
No, that probably all started to fall into place maybe when I was about 15 years old.
Okay.
I enjoyed science. I enjoyed working with people. And so it seemed to fit. Mm-hmm. I really didn't want to be a teacher. So it just sort of seemed to fit. And so I ended up in medicine. And clearly I haven't, regretted it for a minute. There's so many options available when you get into medicine.
And your type of that you focused on during your career as a doctor?
I was a general internist with a special interest in tropical medicine. In fact, that was going to be my career, was tropical medicine. I got my board certification in internal medicine, and then I got involved in in tropical medicine. A lot of things just sort of fell into place, but I love to travel. I'm fascinated by parasitic disease, and it struck me as the sort of specialty where you can actually look down a microscope in many cases and see the parasite that's causing the problem and treat somebody and make them better. And it was like, oh, this is what I want to do. So I spent probably 7 years working in London at the London School of Tropical Medicine and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
But you're not from England.
Yeah, I'm from England. Yes.
Okay. What part of England are you from?
Well, I was born in the southwest of England.
So Wales?
No, down in the southwest in Devon.
England. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously when I went to medical school, I had to move up to Birmingham in the center of England. And then the main centers of tropical medicine are in London. So I moved down there.
So this, again, yeah, tropical medicine, you know, people are getting sick. They don't know what it is, but the scientists that can come in and say, hey, it looks like this is some sort of this disease because of this. They can look in their microscope and find out. I know there were several. There's, like you say, so many different fields. I knew a gentleman who studied the different diseases of flies and how they're vectors of these different diseases. And he had to go down in Mexico into this lab down here and study all of these things for years and years and years. So after your school in London, you studied tropical medicine. Where did that take you? I'm guessing, is this Hawaii is sort of at the end of this road here somewhere, or close by, or midway through?
Yes, you're right. But it was an abrupt turn where I met my first wife, and she was originally from Hawaii. And so she didn't want to go to the tropics to work and live. And going to the mainland of the United States didn't seem like the best idea. So we came to Hawaii. And soon after I came to Hawaii, actually, is when I climbed Haiku stairs.
Yeah, now that is, because again, Oahu, you can see in my background here, Oahu has some of the most beautiful places, and each island has its own unique spaces and different places. That's why I always kind of ask folks that, where's your place for your hideaway, your getaway? Because there's lots of places where people come here to find this sort of, and to go and hike in this outdoors. We're, very healthy type of folks. So give us a little background of the Haiku stairs and your first impressions when you first came.
Well, we've always lived in Windward Oahu. Okay. Actually in Kaneohe itself. And so, from several places in Kaneohe, you can see the top of the stairs. And indeed, you can actually see the stairs themselves when the lighting is just right.
Sure.
And so I was always fascinated by what was up there. And at that time, they were run by the Coast Guard. And so they were allowing people to go up. You had to go up into the valley to the Omega station that's up there, sign a waiver, and they just let you go up. And you go up, spend several hours up there getting to the top, and then you come back down, sign out, and you are done. And
what's the original intent? It seems like a simple process, and we'll talk about that later, how this is there's created some different problems over time as more traffic. But what was the original intent of the stairs?
Well, they were built in 1942 as part of the response to the attack on Pearl Harbor. And the idea was to try and generate to send out radio messages that wouldn't be dictated by the Japanese, but would reach submarines and other ships, mainly in Tokyo Bay and the Indian Ocean. So very special type of electric waves that were sent. It was very important that they did not get detected, but could travel long distances. And that's exactly what was achieved. But in order to do that, you have to have these huge antennae. Mm-hmm. And the only way to do that was to, the engineering in that is incredible, but you would have these antennae going across Haiku Valley, and that's how the messages were sent out.
Well, I agree. Again, I agree with a lot of the engineering you see here, the tunnels and the different things with these that have to go through the Ko'olau Mountains. Really impressive what it's almost a fortress, the different tunnels and different things that they've got around. But again, Haiku Stairs has been special, been nice, easy with the Coast Guard. They had it running, and of course, over time and rain and everything like that, things, sort of begin to fall apart. Who's been maintaining it for, after the Coast Guard? They maintained it for a while, and then.
And then they shut it down, supposedly for repairs, and it was going to be a temporary closure. But then that became more of a permanent thing. And then the Jeremy Harris administration in 2002 made a decision to reopen the stairs and to, repair them at a cost of almost $1 million. And they did a superb job. But right around that time, there was the tragedy in Sacred Falls, and everybody started getting concerned about liability. And also then became an issue about access. So after doing all these repairs, the whole project was put on hold.
Now, have the Friends of the Haiku Stairs been alongside that group at the same time, or was it after they had sort of released responsibility?
Yeah. Friends of Haiku Stairs was formed over 30 years ago. And that was in response to the Coast Guard closing them down. People started getting very concerned that the next step was going to be, they were going to remove the stairs.
Sure.
So that's when Friends of Haiku Stairs was formed. And pretty much ever since then, it's been a real roller coaster.
Sure.
It looks like they're going to get reopened. No, it looks like they're going to be shut and removed. And it's been up and down. And we worked very hard over the 30 years. I've only been involved actively for maybe the last 5 years.
Sure.
But a lot of work has gone into this, a lot of effort, a lot of brain power to figure out the best way to do this safely and effectively. And
so, right. So there's pros and cons. And I know there's one side of the fence that says, hey, not, I won't call it a fence. Let's just say one view is that, there's so much traffic and it creates a lot of congestion up there. The homeowners up there are a little concerned, very concerned about, what's as far as traffic and things. I don't know, what's your understanding of that situation and mitigation opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I totally sympathize with those people who live in that neighborhood. They're getting disturbed 24 hours a day by hikers. And it's just totally unacceptable situation. And the real tragedy is that if this, this could have been sorted out 20 years ago.
Sure.
Solution put into place, the residents wouldn't even see the hikers, except they could probably spot them on the stairs. But it didn't happen. We got very close with the Caldwell administration. We worked very hard with that administration, and they could see the value of this. And we worked very hard with them over many years, and got to the point where last year, it looked like we were getting very close to having a plan in place. They'd sent out requests for interest. Anybody who was interested in sort of running the stairs.
So when you say they, you're talking about the council?
The Caldwell administration.
Okay, so at that time,
Yeah.
the mayor said, hey,
Yeah.
let's, they engaged several groups or anyone who was interested. They put out a public forum opportunity.
Yeah.
And so they created a public forum. And then that's where the Friends of Haiku Stairs started engaging that forum.
Well, yeah, so the 14 organizations sent in proposals, if you like, to run the stairs. And I've seen all of them, and to be honest, most of them are very good. We sent in a proposal as well, but we're not sort of dedicated to running this whole operation. We'd love to work as advisors because we have so much knowledge and information about the stairs. But It really needs to be run by a professional vendor, ideally an ecotourist type of company who's very interested in educating people about all the plants that are up there, the history of the stairs, the history of the valley, putting a lot of emphasis on that. There's this huge opportunity to educate people when you're on the stairs. And that's where the focus needs to be. It's a great recreational experience to be up there, but it's also a cultural and educational experience. And, some people don't like the term ecotourism, and you can interpret it all sorts of ways or define it all sorts of different ways. But I think it's a reasonable sort of term to use, as long as you understand what we mean by ecotourism.
Sure. But there's also the other impact. What does it become if if it's closed down and nobody has access to it, to run it, to manage it, to troubleshoot, because I guess the solution of closing it down is just put a fence around it. What are some of the challenges you see of closing it down as an option?
Yeah, well, I don't even really want to think about that option, but
sure.
So
that's what's on the table right now. The council has suggested that they put a resolution in place that says we're recommending that this be closed down, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so we're in
Yeah.
So it's imminent. So the discussion need is sort of a now type of thing, since even though it's been going on for a long time, now they've sort of forced the issue. Let's have a discussion, but it doesn't feel like it's really a discussion. So maybe you could give us a little history of where we're at, where you think we're at right now with all the stakeholders.
Yeah. So as I was mentioning, with the Caldwell administration, towards the end of last year, things look really good. They had 14 organizations interested in running the stairs. But then unfortunately, we ran out of time. Changing administrations, changing a lot of the city council members.
Sure. COVID was going on in the middle of all this.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you couldn't have, if you wrote a book about this, people wouldn't read it because they'd say that can't be true. There's too much nonsense going on. But that's the reality. This is what happened.
Sure.
So sort of fast forward to early 2021, and all of a sudden there's like an about turn, or big change in direction, and we are facing a motion before the city council to add $1 million to the city budget for this upcoming fiscal year, and with talk of it, that money, $1 million, being set aside to remove the stairs. And that was like, where did that come from? That was a complete 180-degree turn in the direction we were going in. So just part of this roller coaster that I mentioned earlier. But anyway, so that's where we were. And we didn't know about this. We had really no notice about this. And it was voted on. And so now the next step is that it goes before the city council at some point for them to vote on the motion to remove the stairs, which would be an unbelievable tragedy,
Right. Well, was there an opportunity for public comment, or just this brief time, I guess, per any sort of city council activity? Is there a moment for us to be able to speak on it?
Yes, there has been a couple of opportunities. People can send in written testimony, and they can give testimony orally live at the meeting. That's only 1 minute that people are given. And we had, in support of the stairs, I believe over 1,000 written testimonies that came in.
Sure.
And supporting removal of the stairs, I forget what the number was. It was less than 100.
Sure.
And all this at very short notice, I must add. Mm-hmm. But I understand this is the way things maybe get done. But it was a little bit disappointing. I don't really think many people on the city council or in that committee read the written testimony. I can't see how they possibly could. Mm-hmm. And the oral testimony, like I said, it was just 1 minute we're allowed.
Right. And so this is where it comes, as far as, you're the president of the Haiku Stairs. This is where people aren't very familiar necessarily how being a public advocate works, or being someone who's, I guess trying to stand up for something that you believe in, which is sort of an American thing, I suppose, but it's also as part of your English history as well, we can stand up and share what we think is appropriate for our area. And there should be some sort of mechanism for the people being heard. So it sounds like during the transition, there were some things that, ongoing. I guess every administration that happens, maybe there's some things that are dropped and some things that are added. But in your perspective, what do you think? Maybe a transition would have looked a little bit easier for you folks. Or what do you recommend going forward? We could talk about, well, he said, she said, all that. What do you think we should do going forward as a recommendation to everybody who's interested?
Well, I think you know, we need to sit down with both sides and, you know, really try and explain to people this concept plan that we've developed. It's like a 16-page document that takes people through how what we call managed access will work. And it addresses all the main concerns that have been raised, things like security, liability, insurance, trespassing, safety. You know, it's addressed in real detail. And this has been put together over many years by a lot of people who are real experts in their field. So engineers, teachers, medical people, you know, this sort of thing, hikers, writers. And
right. You didn't put a
people.
little PowerPoint together and just throw it in and say, hey, maybe you should think about this. This has been,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've probably talked point, counterpoint versus each of these issues as far as, you know, give us kind of an idea then. Maybe some people, you know, you address safety and risk and things like that. How do they, one of the concerns was all that traffic. How does that change? Is you say they won't, neighbors won't even see them until maybe they're up on the trail. How does that happen?
Well, I think number one has to be a very effective security system.
Okay.
Right now, the security that's in place has really been woefully inadequate. They spent $250,000 a year on it, but it's inadequate. It's a very amateurish attempt at security. So people know how to get in, and they've been able to get up there. More recently, they've had off-duty police issuing citations, which is somewhat more effective, but people are still managing to get up there. So number one, we have to have a really effective security system, and that's going to be expensive, very expensive to start off with.
Sure.
It has to be. But it will be more of a sort of state-of-the-art 21st century form of security with, you know, we might be able to use we'd use night vision cameras, for example. We would use, possibly use drones on the stairs to identify anybody who's there. I'm not even sure if that's realistic, but it would be much more state-of-the-art type of security, because that has to work from day one.
Yeah, because if you don't have a central access control to that, then they just try other approaches to try and get to the stairs, and then they make all those other areas upset because they're trying different approaches, which is what they'll do. Even if they say if they tear them out or anything like that, the risk takers, the looky-loos, the ones that are going to say, well, I know where they're at, they're still going to go and try and you know, what's to say to, even though they close it down, what's to keep those folks out?
Well, I mean, heaven forbid that would be a situation. I mean, really, if they do decide to remove the stairs, they're going to have to remove everything, because people will, as you're saying, try and climb up or climb down to actually be on the stairs. So they're going to have to take everything out.
Right.
You know, you can't take out.
Yeah, it's a risk. Yeah, there's still even for the daredevils and I know I can go up there. You know, well, it's not for other people, but even with the stairs, it's a pretty challenging little hike. Makes people a little anxious, I think. Well,
if people have it depends on your imagination, but because when you think about it, it's actually super safe. It's a stairway with railings. I mean, you couldn't imagine anything much safer but you do have a sheer drop on each side in some places. Some places it's very steep, especially near the summit. It can get pretty rainy and windy, but you know, there's never actually been a serious accident or a death on the stairs as a result of an accident on the stairs.
Sure.
One unfortunate person died from a heart attack trying to climb the stairs, but you know, that could have happened anywhere.
Right. Well, so yeah, I think that's an important point that the council or all the stakeholders need to assess. Is that sure? It's easy to strike the pen and, you know, say, check the box and say, yeah, close it down, you know, remove it. We've got money for it. We don't have to pay the annual fee anymore. So it's going to save us a bunch of money. Right.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah. I mean, actually our concept plan will make money for the city.
So how does that work? So tell me how that works.
Well, we have to charge people to go up there. There's no, you know, city, state have not stepped forward and said, we'll pay for this, you know.
Right.
So in the proposal that we sent in, at least, and in several of the others, I think, there was an agreement to the vendor would pay for the cost of of renovating the stairs. And in many situations, they're in very good shape, but there's at least one area that would need some work on it.
Mm-hmm.
So they would pay for the cost of the renovation and sort of proper fencing and obviously the security set up and that. And then once the stairs are open, then people would have to pay to go up there. And there would be, for local people, it would be a small charge. For visitors, it would be a pretty substantial charge. But we know people are willing to spend the sort of money we're talking about. And if people know the money is going into the operation, it's going back into the operation, it's paying for the insurance, it's paying for the maintenance, it's paying for the educational programs, then people are happy to pay that. There's actually research that shows that.
Sure.
And so that's what'll happen. Oh, one thing I want to mention while I think about it, we started talking about security and the number of people that might be trying to walk through the neighborhood to get to the stairs. Sure. So the way we would deal with that is we would have an office, probably in Kaneohe town, and anybody who had their permit to enable them to go up the stairs, that's where they would report to.
Okay.
And they would get a safety briefing. They would, all sorts of stuff they would get before they go up.
Right. And then I heard like a little bracelet or something like that.
That can be done. Yeah. There's also things we can do. So, color for today is orange.
Right.
And then after they'd done all that, signed a waiver, they would be transported to the base of the stairs in a shuttle van.
So you wouldn't have all the car traffic and things up there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Nobody wandering through the neighborhood, knocking on doors saying, oh, how do I get to the stairs?
Right.
None of that would go on. So, and we would hopefully take them up using a route that does not even go through that neighborhood.
Okay.
That would be our goal. There's an old Haiku road that goes up that would circumvent the neighborhood completely. So they would be taken to the base of the stairs. Any final sort of briefing and that would be there. And then they would go up and there would be escorts on the stairs themselves that would monitor people going up and doing some educational work. There are about 4 platforms on the way, which are ideal for people to take a break, eat something, rehydrate, put on sunscreen again.
Right.
And then they would get some education about what they're looking at when they look down in the valley and they see from the back of the valley all the way down through the taro patches to the fish pond in Heia. And that's probably one of the best places in the state, just to understand what goes on or what went on with Native Hawaiian farming practices.
Sure.
And at the same time, educate people about the plants that are up there. There's rare and Native Hawaiian plants up there that you really can't see anywhere else in the state.
Sure. Well, again, I still, as a third party, I've never been up there. I've Cocoa Head Crater, up those stairs, and they've got, maybe this is a proof in a test if you guys can work it out. Again, there's some repairs that's needed up at Cocoa Crater that those stairs up there that can continue to need. There's not-for-profit groups that help and assist up there. It's not as steep as but it's challenging, and there's some dangerous areas up there too. People get hurt up there as well, probably more than Haiku stairs. But
yes, without doubt.
Yeah. So you're in this, and you see this opportunity, and it sounds like, I still can't get my head around if they're gone, or if they just remove them all, suddenly it'll just vanish into everyone's memory and no one will go up there again. But it seems like, secret, all these trail books that are out there right now still all have Haiku stairs there. And so I'm not sure you're going to be able to stop the flow, especially from the tourists, of people going up there to try and find this.
I think it would become very clear that you can try getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to the valley and try and get on the stairs. But you won't get on the stairs. You certainly won't get anywhere near the summit, and you will get a citation and be paying $1,000 fine. And I think that'll spread in social media, and people will realize that it's not worth it. it's way too expensive and you're still not going to have the experience. Much better to sign up and do it legally and have an opportunity to really enjoy the experience. One key thing, a unique thing about the stairs, if you like, is that at a certain point, probably where the first platform is, beyond that, it's impossible to get on the stairs. So we need to make sure that there are guards situated up to that first platform that would spot people trying to get on and have them arrested.
Sure.
And that should work. I mean, it's just the geography of that area. You can do it, and they've never done that before. You know, with the previous attempts at security.
Yeah, single point of access makes the most sense, where you don't have all these sort of around in place. I mean, you go through Disneyland through the magic, you know, doors, and the big castle's right at the front. That's just how it works, because so you have to have some access control, and
yes.
And so tearing them down does not solve the access control issue at all. It makes it,
I mean, I hope nobody attempts to get it. That would be an incredibly dangerous thing to try and do, to sort of climb the ridge without the stairs being there.
Right.
And now you're going to get accidents and injuries for sure.
Right. Right. Well, I'm hopeful. What are some other groups that are excited to get this message out, and any sort of final words, you know, from you, as far as, you know, what you would like to, any pleas to the council, or to, you know, any, you know, recommendations for the next step? How do we move forward? Yeah, well, I think, you know, we're trying to do the right thing. You know, in my mind, there's no doubt about this whatsoever. The historical significance of the stairs, the opportunities for education, learning about the plants, the microclimates as you climb the stairs. Sure. It's just fascinating what you can learn. It would be a tragedy to lose this. This is like unfortunately, it's a sort of world-class treasure. And so that's why so many people around the world want to climb up there. Right. But we would be able to limit the number of visitors who go up there, balance it with local people who could go up there. And so everybody over time would be able to enjoy the experience. Yeah, it makes most sense. It's logical. But again, we're not a political show, but sometimes, you know, politics is, you know, the financial concerns. And sometimes I've been on some of these mock sort of legislation things, and sometimes you get through a bill before you even read the thing, and sometimes what just happened, you know what I mean? So maybe there's some rethinking that people need to do. Oh, I didn't know that was it, or I didn't know that there's not a solution on the other end of this. How come you know, hey, I didn't get right information. So I think if maybe the board members knew a little bit more and weren't, I mean, who knows? But again, it's an opportunity to educate right now, I think. Yes, clearly. Yeah. There's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in the state right now, for sure. Sure. You know, yeah, a lot of competing. We're not top of the list. Right. Although I think we're fairly close to the top, but rail, COVID clearly are, you know, rather more important. But I would hate, because of all the other things going on, that people wouldn't really take the time to understand about our concept plan for managed access and realize just what a tragedy it would be after all this time to remove the stairs. So I think it's up to us to educate and get the key decision makers to realize just how important this is. Well, and I appreciate that. And I think a lot of people don't know that, again, you're a doctor, you're, you know, you like to hike, but you chose to advocate in this way. And I think it shows a lot of leadership, and that people don't have to be afraid. They can stand up and say, you know, this is an important thing, and being willing to stand out in front of everybody, you know, an open letter to the mayor and the city council, you know, that's brave. You know, where'd you pick that up? Is there anything, you know, other times where you've had to advocate for something and sort of, you know, I guess as a physician, you may have had those opportunities? Well, certainly nothing on this scale. Sure. I mean, it's been a real learning experience for me, and I'm still learning every single day. I mean, this idea of an open letter, it was not my idea, but it came from people who know about how to get these things done. And it looks like it's been very effective already. And it was just, we got to the point where we have to make it very clear. We believe in this so strongly
that we have to get our message across and make sure that people who are, making these decisions have all the information they need to be able to make the right decision.
Sure. And so, yeah, I think that's the sort of the lesson learned, is that if it's important, that you have to find the voice to be able to stand for it. If you believe in it that much, speak about it, don't hide it. Again, there's enough a group of folks that sounded motivated enough to move in this certain direction. And we're hopeful for the best outcome for everybody concerned. But a little bit more about you before we close out, and hopefully we get lots of again, more people interviewing in. We have you all over TV sharing the story. But a little bit more about you. You love Hawaii, and you've other hikes that you've done in Hawaii that you recommend.
Oh, there's really so many, but I have to make it clear. This Haiku Stairs is clearly out on its own. There's nothing that comes close to this. I've been on some nice hikes on Kauai,
sure,
and the Big Island. I mean, there's a lot of things out there, but nothing that comes close to Haiku Stairs.
It's sort of in a class by itself.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Without doubt. And I'm not embellishing that thought. That's so many people would say, yeah, you're right, as far as that goes. So I must admit, I wake up sometimes wondering what the hell have I done getting into this? It's a challenge, and it's a learning curve. And, fortunately, we've got a great team of people who are working with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the sort of thing anybody could possibly do on their own.
Right. And they're all volunteers, right? They're all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's different. I think that means something. People who are, taking of their own time to push an agenda. I mean, I'm sure there's the other folks, the companies that vied for, access to operate it would love to continue to have the stairs there, but that's not you. You folks are here as advocating for the retention and of sustained sort of maintenance of and control of that very special sort of precious treasure that Hawaii has to offer.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, sir, again, we look forward to all of the outcomes. I guess we'll keep watching the news and looking out for what happens, but we're very excited that you came on our show to share with us sort of how this whole process works, but also your desire to see the Haiku Stairs remain in its pristine and beautiful condition long into the future. So we hope for the best there, sir.
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this passion that I've developed.
Sure. So thank you so much. And until next time, hui ho.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.